and welcome into the newest episode of Pat's Latest. I'm your host, Mike Gambardella, and we have a shocker in on Micah Parsons regarding the New England Patriots and how that deal with the Packers eventually from the Dallas Cowboys and not the Patriots came to fruition. Mike Vrabel giving the insight there, additionally giving us the update for Stefon Diggs we've all been waiting for, a surprise on the depth chart at running back, and a defensive tackle no longer with the team. We have it all here for you on Pat's Latest. Before we get into it, make sure you go down and subscribe for the channel so you get everything sent to your inbox every day for Pat's Latest. Get into the comments and let us know what you think about Micah Parsons. Should the Patriots have pushed harder to get him to New England? Is Stefon Diggs truly ready? And what should that backfield pecking order end up looking like? Additionally, make sure you give us that like and go back and check out all of our old episodes after this one so you know exactly what's going on with your New England Patriots. We start with Micah Parsons and the shocker that the Patriots, while connected through many different sources, online beat reporters, we'll call them, there was never a real connection between the Patriots and Micah Parsons. Dallas and Jerry Jones had their issues. It went very quickly from we're going to get a deal done. Of course, Dak Prescott had it happen to him. CeeDee Lamb had it happen. It was just a matter of time for Micah until it wasn't. And suddenly he shipped out. The Packers gave the interior defensive lineman and Kenny Clark and a couple first round picks. It seemed like a deal that the Patriots could have probably worked their way towards should they really have wanted it. And in on Tuesday's media scrum, Mike Vrabel was asked about it and said, what was it? Were the Patriots close to a deal? What were the conversations around this? And Vrabel said very matter-of-factly that, we continue to have conversations about all players that are available. And he went on to remark that the Micah Parsons deal was not something that we were really invested a lot of time or resources in. Now, there's obviously a very good reason for that because they never really thought that it was the right move for them, whether or not they could actually get the deal done. He added that I think when you just try to look at what we feel is best for us right now, that wasn't entertaining that specific transaction. Again, that they were not looking at Micah Parsons as being a cure-all or something that they were willing to give up future draft assets for. What this reiterates is that Mike Vrabel and company really value the draft, and he went on to acknowledge they need to build depth through that draft and acknowledge that it hasn't happened in recent seasons. And anyone who looks at the draft logs for it and the fact that, essentially Drake May is the only person still here from last year's draft, that's exactly what he's talking about. And understanding that if you give away two players from next year plus one from this year's roster just to add one player, suddenly that depth is very much impacted. And, he was asked, well, if you had a, cheap deal for it or a bargain, would that be something you look at? And again, it was very much the coach speak. Of course, we would take a look at it. But again, I think it is fairly eye-opening to realize that the Patriots really were never in on Micah Parsons. And while many people may be saying go after it, get everything you can in front and behind Drake May right now, it's also a long-term goal for this team. They're not going to try and win overnight. They're going to try to do it the right way. They'll see what they get out of this season. Obviously, they want to see improvement every day, every week, every month, etc., and then continue to build towards that goal of being not only competitive, winning an AFC East championship, and then having a playoff run, and then we can finally start talking potentially about Lombardis in the future. Additionally, we got an update from Mike Vrabel on Stefon Diggs, again, returning from the ACL surgery in the offseason, losing his time with the Houston Texans back in Week 8. Mike Vrabel asked point blank, again, Week 1 coming up on Sunday, will we see Stefon Diggs out there? His answer, as of today, he'll be out there. And while on the surface that looks as though it's a little clouded to say, well, what does that mean for tomorrow, etc. I think that goes for any player. As of today, Drake May's starting quarterback. Not to say he'd roll his ankle tomorrow. But again, I think it is very much ready for Stefon Diggs to be out there to take that next step and to be that number one option for Drake May when the season starts. Now, I think that starts to ask the question of what do you expect from Stefon Diggs? What is a good stat line for him? If he comes away with 4 catches for 58 yards and no touchdowns, is that a solid debut? And I think it has to unfortunately go beyond stats. For the Patriots, for Josh McDaniels' offense, he wants to spread the ball around. He doesn't want, one player to rack everything up. Not to say that he wouldn't go that route if that's where he's seeing success. But I think diversification is going to be a key to success. So do not expect, the first game out there for Stefon Diggs to rack up a ton of catches or rack up a ton of yards. I think be there on third downs when you need it most, to get him involved early so he's ready to go, perhaps available on those clutch third downs and late in the fourth quarter. But again, letting Drake May be Drake May, go through his progressions, go through his reads, and really spread the ball around is probably more important. So while that stat line, I think, as long as you're saying 4 to 8 catches between 50 and 100 yards and throw a touchdown in there, that's great. Get him out of there healthy, and that indeed would be a good stat line for Stefon Diggs. Another surprise coming in the release of the first unofficial depth chart for the New England Patriots, which comes from the communications office from the team and not necessarily from the coaches, but it's a team sanctioned document coming across. And the big surprise is at the backfield position. Ramondre Stevenson listed as the number 1 running back, Antonio Gibson number 2, and the second round rookie that everyone's talking about, Travion Henderson, listed as number 3 on the depth chart. Now, that's not to say that he has to crack ahead and won't get as many opportunities, but I think it very much shows that he is a rookie. He has to earn his stripes a bit. I don't even believe he was listed as the top punt or kick returner. Even though he returned 1 touchdown on the first play of the preseason. So again, Travion Henderson may be getting a little bit of the rookie treatment here, so don't overreact too much to not seeing him up towards the top of that depth chart. Expect all 3 players to see extended run, and don't be surprised if Josh McDaniels starts going with the hot hand at times. Again, I think expect more to see Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson up the middle, early down runs, getting Travion Henderson into those design passing plays, and then picking their spots, whether it's draws, getting the defense sleeping, and just giving Henderson a chance to get the ball in space is probably the most important thing, and not necessarily is he out on the field on 3 consecutive drives. Additionally, in the backfield, another change is at the fullback position. The Patriots listed as a starting fullback was Jack Westover, and that is falling in line with what we had reported on for much of the offseason, saying once Brock Lampy got injured, the Patriots wanting to have a fullback, and Westover acted as that backup while also backing up the tight end position and actually wore Gronk's 87 for the entirety of the preseason. He has now switched numbers, going from 87 to 37, and now will be that starting fullback and be that third string tight end when needed. But I think expect to see him in those 2 running back spots when you're going in that big back formation, and allowing him to really dig out and open up holes for those 3 talented running backs in front of him, behind him as well. And finally, we end today with a defensive tackle being released from the Patriots, and that is undrafted free agent from the University of North Carolina. Javari Ritzy was released. He actually had a up and down preseason, but flashed at times. Good enough to actually, not make the 53-man roster, but stick around and being signed to the practice squad. Unfortunately, that did not last very long. Recent practice squad additions, all coming at the defensive tackle position with Corey Durden, Fabian Levitt Sr., and more importantly, the waiver claim put on Eric Gregory, who came over from the Cincinnati Bengals, was probably the biggest impact, and someone that the Patriots have very, very high hopes for. Expect to see him in the defensive tackle rotation against the Raiders on Sunday. And actually, if you go on social media when the Patriots officially announced that they had claimed Eric Gregory, there were a lot of upset Bengal fans and media members thinking that, the Bengals were going to try and pull a fast one and not put him onto the roster, try and put him on the practice squad and get it back up. Patriots jumped all over that. Vrabel had stated that Gregory was a player that they were after, and the Bengals were able to get him initially, and they actually kept a very close eye to see if he would become available, which came to fruition, and now Gregory is on the 53-man roster, and expect to see him in the trenches and potentially making an impact against Geno Smith and company in just a few days' time. That'll do it for us here on this episode of Pat's Latest. Again, make sure you go down, subscribe for the channel, get in the comments, let us know what you think about Micah Parsons, Stefon Diggs, Travion Henderson, the rest of the defensive additions, and what to expect from the Patriots here in Week 1. Make sure you give us that like and go back and check out all of our old episodes so you know what's going on with your Patriots. We'll continue to have it all for you right here on Pat's Latest. Fight on, Foxborough.